as it pertains to the Black community, whether it's the Smithsonian Museum or anything else, there's a concerted effort to erase an attachment and a connection to Black history. Why? Because that wouldn't be good for white people. We've heard the president allude to what's to the detriment of white folks and how he laments that from time to time, which is why there's a concerted effort to reverse history, or at least our connection to it. And how do you do so? Because future generations, if you don't have access to stuff in libraries, if you don't have access to stuff in schools, if you don't have access to stuff online and beyond, guess what? They would never be informed. And as a result, for future generations to come, it'll erase the iniquities that were committed by other folks in our society for decades, if not centuries. Everything that folks were lamenting about, he brings into play. When you talk about ICE and what's been going on in the streets of Portland, Chicago, Los Angeles, and most recently Minneapolis, and you hear people talking about how colored people are being stopped on the streets, how they're devoid of search warrants when ICE approaches them, and ICE agents don't have search warrants. When they're talking about not being allowed to wear masks because you've been wearing masks and hiding your identity, and you're alluding to the threats that have been exercised towards ICE agents and what have you, so that it's necessary to hide their identity. Well, where do we get to hide when we have to deal with the president and his behavior and his classlessness and his insensitivity and the way he's been?
Again, surprisingly, I agree with that, because there are people that have said that if they say something against the president's behavior or something that he may have done or said, there are people that will target and come ask you questions. There's technology out there now, whether some of you are aware of it or not, where they're actually targeting neighborhoods and areas. I'll talk about that at length in another video, but keep all of those things in mind. And for all of you brown and Black people out there that continue to say, we're going to sit this one out and it's not our fight. Again, I respect your opinion and understand that. But you do realize that the temporary protective status of Haitians almost came to an end. Now, even though it was blocked temporarily, that could have affected many people. And now Ohio potentially could be next on the docket, if you will. Yeah. It could be on the docket, if you will. Now, before we continue, I'm going to add something. Try to be patient, please. Thank you. This is a photograph of my mom and myself. Take a good look at it. Now, that was when we were both younger. She's no longer here. But when I was about 18 years old, the Greenbelt, Maryland police were notorious for pulling people over. I was with a girlfriend and two of our friends who were males, dark-skinned males, in the back of my car. I had a Subaru at the time, the Subaru model that looked like a little spaceship. So, of course, I was hyped up and thought I was cute. Anyway, the police pulled me over. It was probably around 10 o'clock at night. We were on Greenbelt Road, and he took, of course, my license and registration. 5 minutes later, this officer came back with his gun drawn, pointed directly in my face, and said this was a stolen vehicle and that it is registered in a white woman's name. I have a temper. It's calmed down quite a bit. But back then it was really bad. And I looked at him and I said, sir, this is my vehicle. It's registered to both my mom and myself. You may want to do a little bit of checking. At that time, the big cell phones were out. I'm talking about those big, heavy ones. And my girlfriend called my mom and talked to one of the officers. The officer's supervisor apologized and said that, well, your brake light is out. Your brake light's out. The officer who had his gun drawn on me never apologized, did nothing like that. My mom went through hell for being too dark for white people, but too light for black people. And because of everything she went through, decided to marry the darkest man she could find, who wasn't really that dark, but compared to her, he was. Racism, no matter what form, is painful, and it causes problems in families. My auntie, may she rest continuously in peace. 2 of her children, one had greenish gray eyes, the other was more bluish, and the other 2 brown eyes. She appeared to favor the lighter colored eyed children. When my auntie passed away, only one of my cousins attended her homegoing. I don't know what they experienced growing up, but the cousin who attended, the brown-eyed one, who was beautiful in her own right, attended Howard University, architectural engineer. She can take any photo and draw it. She has beautiful paintings. She knows how to sew, crochet. She's designed buildings. But she still has issues because of how she was treated, because she wasn't as light as her sister, nor did she have the light colored eyes. So when I say things and remarks can hurt people and scar people, some people for a lifetime, I can attest to that because I've seen the damage it's done to my cousin. Let's continue to listen to a bit more of Stephen A. Smith.
This is an opportunity for us to veer away from politics and to touch on our humanity. Whether you're a Democrat, you're an independent, you're a Republican, you should abhor what we're talking about right now. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as monkeys, as apes. Recently, Senator Chuck Schumer, a Democrat out of New York City, alluded to the whole voter registration issue in the SAFE Act as an extension of Jim Crow 2.0. I went on the record and said that was engaging in hyperbole. That was a bit excessive. I don't feel that way now. Not after this. He alludes to something.
And this is why I said that I'm surprised that I agree with Stephen A. Because no disrespect with Stephen A. in my opinion. He tap dances a lot when it comes to certain subjects and appears to try to side with both aisles, and oftentimes you just can't. So let's continue to listen to a little bit more, but for the entire perspective by Stephen A. Smith can be found on his channel, Straight Shooter with Stephen A. Smith.
Taking something that you're doing from a legal perspective and attaching racism to it. And just days later, you validate his suspicions and his skepticism. Don't let me get into the punk-ass approach that I'm witnessing right now, where we're saying, hey, it was a staffer, it wasn't him. By the way, a staffer who is anonymous. So it was somebody within your administration who's anonymous. Therefore, since we don't know their name, they don't get to be held accountable if it was indeed them.
And we're going to stop it right there. So again, Barack and Michelle Obama were referred to in a clip, and it was a short clip, as monkeys or apes. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, came out as she normally does and made a foolish statement, and then they tried to do a little bit of damage control and say or put the blame or attempt to put the blame on an anonymous staffer. Let's continue. Again, this is The Weekend Show. I'm your hostess, Lise. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, the next video we're going to listen to is courtesy of News Nation. Again, News Nation. And this is Cuomo.
And I don't care that there are a lot of Democrats in the extended video. You use a quick clip of Obama and his wife as monkeys, you know what message it sends, and you know it is wrong. And whoever was a part of it should be exposed and disposed of. Of course, the president doesn't take the blame. Of course, they took it down. The message was sent and received. And of course, his mouthpiece tries to put the blame on the rest of us. This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage. Fake outrage? Tell that to Senator Tim Scott. He posted this was the most racist thing he's ever seen out of the White House. Interesting choice of words.
Senator Tim Scott, again, much respect to you, but what makes you honestly think, never mind, I'm going to reserve my comment, because after this blows over, and it will, if it hasn't already, you'll be back to doing the same thing. Maybe not, but we'll see.
Most racist, as opposed to the only racist thing he's ever seen out of the White House. Scott apparently called the president, asked him to remove the video, and then deleted it. Because if you don't want people to accuse you of being racist, guess what? Don't do things like this, okay? Now, the Obamas have not responded to the video. I'm not surprised. Instead, the president put out a message to America's athletes on the night of the opening ceremony of the Olympics. So all the athletes, we're proud of you, we're with you, saying all the right things instead of getting down in the mud. Good move. Someone can.
As they said before, when they go low, they go high. Again, there are a lot of people who do not like the Obamas and agree with some of the things that have been done and said by the Obamas. But is this really, really deserving? Again, everyone has their opinions, but we see by their actions, by not responding with the same type of energy. To me, it speaks volumes. Let's continue.
Still take the high road. Because the current president said moments ago he didn't make a mistake by posting the video. He only watched the first part of the video, which was about voter fraud, and he gave it to his people, and they didn't watch the whole thing. I argue that the first part of the video should be just as embarrassing for him as the end of the video is obviously offensive, but what comes before it is the real story. That motivated the bigotry in the first place. See, while it's good that some Republicans are saying, oh, you shouldn't have Obama as a monkey. Oh, great. But they're not saying anything about what came before it. This absurdist nonsense about the 2020 election, conspiracies that have been debunked. Before the 2-second monkey crap, 58 seconds of absurd, baseless conspiracies. They don't even mention that. Why would you put this BS with the monkey BS? Here's my take. The president believes that the kind of person who would believe the nonsense that he's putting out about the last election being rigged would be amused, would enjoy depicting the black president and his wife as monkeys. In other words, the joke is not on the Obamas. The president is actively making a monkey out of you. Now, the guy in the video is retired Army Colonel Phil Waldron, an Army-trained spook and psychological influence operations psyops. He circulated a 38-page PowerPoint back in 2020 to the members of Congress, to the White House. He had all these meetings with the Trumpers arguing that they should declare a national emergency to stay in office because China and Venezuela had remote control over our voting machines. No evidence, nothing.
Take a good look at this individual right here.
To support the claims. They were dismissed. The MAGA folk couldn't meet with them enough, but everybody who has a fully functioning cerebellum dismissed the claim. Until now. It seems the White House is trying to distract with conspiracies that the midterms are rigged just in case they don't go their way.
And we must remember, ladies and gentlemen,
you got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
What they should be doing is meeting where the majority is. Our concerns, not monkey business about the past, the dire concerns of the current, specifically the cost of living, specifically health care. Now polling as more concerning than groceries, utilities, rent, and mortgage payments, and gas prices. Let's discuss the state of play. Host of Katie Pavlich tonight, Katie herself. Good to have you. Happy Friday.
Hey, Chris. Thank you for having me.
So,
good to see you. Happy Friday.
What does this mean? Not so much the monkey business, What does this intense messaging that the elections were rigged mean about the disposition towards the midterms for the administration?
Well, first, I think it's really important to point out that the outrage over the depiction at the end of a scroll video, which then automatically went to another video, was not vindictive in nature. Was it a mistake? Yes. Did it cause a problem for the White House all day today? Yes. Is the president upset about it? And there's a reporting out tonight that there are a number of White House staffers who are upset that this occurred because of the narrative all day was not on the fact.
So many of you may not have seen this. You may have just seen the clip of the Obamas, but on this channel, I don't believe that I have been biased. I make my assumptions and opinions based on what I see. So you can actually see, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, that there were other people that were placed on animals, as you can see right here. Many of you may not have seen the entirety, so I'm playing it.
Fact that last night President Trump announced Trump RX, which means that medication prices are going to go down for Americans because Europeans now are going to pay their fair share when it comes to investment in drugs and the ROD.
So for those of you that are interested in seeing this entire video and perspective given by Chris Cuomo, you may do that by going to News Nation. Again, this is the weekend show. I'm your hostess, Lise, and we will continue. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you double tap your screens, and depending upon the device you're listening to, please consider giving this a thumbs up. Thank you so much. We are back, and this time we're going to pivot to The View as they discuss Bill and Hillary Clinton, who has agreed to testify. Now, there was a video that I saw where public testimony, if I'm not mistaken, was blocked, but I'm not really sure if that is solidified or if that's changed. But this is The View talking about the Clintons and agreeing to testify. This is the voice of Whoopi Goldberg, courtesy of The View.
He was asked about the Clintons agreeing to testify before a House Oversight Committee after he snapped at CNN reporter Caitlin Collins. Take a look.
A lot of women who are survivors of Epstein's are unhappy with those redactions that came out. Some of them, entire witness interviews are totally blacked out. Do you think that they should be more transparent?
They thought they released too much. There was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead, CNN.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten
You are
justice?
the worst reporter. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on
I'm
your
asking you
face.
about survivors.
You know why?
of Jeffrey
You know why
Epstein's
you're not
case.
smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth.
Today we
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The chairman, James Comer, was asked if you know who needs to answer questions about how many times he shows up in the Epstein files. Take a listen.
President Trump's name is mentioned more than 1,000 times in these documents. Why not try to get more information
Actually, it's been quite a bit more than just 1,000, but hey, who am I? I still count on my fingers.
from him? Try to get him to testify.
Well, I've noticed that every time you all do a gaggle like this with President Trump, somebody asked him about Epstein. So he's been answering questions about Epstein.
Not a no.
Well, has Bill Clinton ever answered any questions on Epstein or Hillary Clinton? So this is going to be a new opportunity, and we'll go from there.
So call me crazy, but I have a dumb question. If President Clinton is testifying, don't Americans want to hear from who?
Yeah.
Who should be testifying as well?
Well, it seems like to me, first of all, Trump is mentioned in the files 38,000 times. So
Let that sink in, and I'm going to say allegedly. To be prudent and responsible, this is unconfirmed, but I've seen this number float around the internet 38,000 times.
that's why they keep talking to him about it. And the Clintons doing, it seems to me, open up the floodgates to testify that he has to testify, and Bill Gates and whoever else is in there. And remember that Clinton had to testify under oath about Monica Lewinsky.
Right.
And so that he set the precedent that a sitting president can testify.
But apparently now, as I understand it, he's been given, who's been given such a wide breadth. Does this mean that President Clinton technically doesn't have to testify? If he didn't have to testify,
No, he has to, right?
They've agreed to, certainly. And
Well,
I think, the Clintons are playing chess while everybody else is
Yeah.
playing checkers.
Yeah.
And there's just, because they've already actually submitted sworn affidavits
Yes.
to this House committee. I've read them. They are in depth and astute. But I will say this, I think you're right, Joy. I think the fact that a former president is testifying in front of the House committee pursuant to a subpoena sets a high precedent, sets the bar for any president to be called before this committee. Now, the Supreme Court, I think what you're referring to, the Supreme Court just in 2024 sort of held that presidents have almost absolute immunity. But it's not, there are a little wiggle room there, because what they found was that former presidents have absolute immunity for actions within their conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority, presumptive immunity for all other official acts, and no immunity for unofficial acts.
So we've heard that before. We've heard that before. So this is coming up on the first hour. We are going to take a break. Again, welcome to those who are just joining to the weekend show. I'm your host, Lise, and we're going to be talking about quite a few headlines that have gone on this week. And for those of you, as I mentioned, just joining, welcome, and much love to the members, to the subscribers, and to those who like to come in from time to time. Before we go on break, we're going to listen to a couple of quick videos, again, referencing one of the largest news stories. And again, that was the viral clip of the Obamas being depicted, referred to as monkeys/apes.
Trump's documentary has been heavily criticized in the media and by viewers. Michelle Obama's documentary is actively surging on Netflix. So a 13,000% increase is what official stats saw, according to The Independent. In just a single weekend, 47.5 million minutes of the documentary were watched collectively across the world. And while that viewership number is only about to surge even more, following Donald Trump posting the horrific racist image of the Obamas depicting them as monkeys, as apes, on Black History Month, Michelle Obama's documentary continues to surge.
And here's one more. That was, by the way, Mr. Aaron Parnas on TikTok, Aaron Parnas. And next, we're going to listen to Scott Lloyd. Again, Scott Lloyd.
This image posted by the President of the United States is absolutely deplorable. But sadly, it has a long racist history. Hello friends, I'm Scott Lloyd, scholar of race, religion, culture, and communication, and author of the book, The God I Was Given, Looking for Faith After Losing My Religion. I want to talk about a lie so old and so poisonous that it still echoes today. Unfortunately, in this deplorable meme posted by the President of the United States, in the West, people have dragged Black bodies through a visual lie so ugly that it still resonates today. Black bodies compared to apes instead of angels. It's not by accident. It was engineered, illustrated, repeated until it felt normal. In the 18th and 19th centuries, so-called science locked arms with empire and slavery and put on a lab coat. Pseudoscience measured skulls, ranked bodies, drew charts, and circulated images, placing white Europeans at the top of creation and Black people somewhere between human and animal. It wasn't ignorance, it was strategy. Because if you can convince yourself that someone is less than human, you can then justify chaining them, selling them, breeding them, and brutalizing them, and then baptize it all as civilization. Those images didn't stay trapped in dusty textbooks. They marched into newspapers, advertisements, children's books, and political cartoons. During Jim Crow, Black men were drawn as gorillas to stoke fear and justify lynching. Black women were animalized to excuse sexual violence. Black children were mocked as monkeys before they ever learned to read. The message was relentless. You are not fully human. But here's the truth. Those images didn't die when segregation laws fell. They evolved. They slipped into memes, into sports, into commentary, into social media, jokes, coded language. Every time a Black athlete is compared to an animal, every time the word primitive or savage or thug gets tossed around, that old lie clears its throat and speaks again. This isn't about being overly sensitive. It's about historical memory. Images shape imagination, and imagination shapes policy. And policy is the pain that gets believed. So we name it, we remember it, we refuse to pass it down, because the image of God was never a... This image
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms. Because
Bro, we broke up with you for a reason. Donald Trump is like an old boyfriend who you broke up with, but he just won't go away. Bro.
We are back. We are back. And we're going into our second hour of the weekend show. And we are going to continue with Bill and Hillary Clinton. You can find this as well on News Nation. Again, welcome to the weekend show. I'm your hostess, Lise. I'm so excited to be back with you again on this blistery cold weekend. So please make sure that you bundle up. You have something healthy to sip on or to snack on. I know many of you are preparing for the Super Bowl tomorrow. I'm going to put a poll up because I'm a sports fan as well, and wondering who you think will walk away or run away with the win on tomorrow for those who engage and watch the Super Bowl. So let's continue. Hillary Clinton calls for a public hearing, but as I mentioned, I believe that may have been blocked. I'll do some quick research, but this is a post from Hillary Clinton on X, formerly known as Twitter. Hillary Clinton. So let's stop the games. Let's stop the games. If you want this fight at Republican James Comer, let's have it in public. You love to talk about transparency. There's nothing more transparent than a public hearing. Cameras on, we will be there. All right, Hillary, all right. The gloves are off and it appears they are ready to go. And here's some audio.
To be interviewed, but fast forward to this morning, you have former First Lady Hillary Clinton writing this: "Let's stop the games. If you want this fight," Representative James Comer, he's the Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee. She says, "Let's have it in public." You love to talk about transparency. There's nothing more transparent than a public hearing. Cameras on, we will be there. Again, the House Oversight Committee, led by Republican James Comer, is leading this investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein case. On the other side of this, you have the Clintons, who say they did have a connection to Jeffrey Epstein, a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, but they deny any sort of knowledge of crimes going on. And again, there's
let me say this. There have been a lot of videos that
this image posted by the president
about a lot of names being in these files. And I want to say that I agree with many people who say that even though names may be in the files or documentation may not necessarily mean that they were engaged or may have had knowledge of anything, because I don't know how far this goes back. It seems like it may have gone back for years. I'm not sure. Only the victims and the creator know. So let's go ahead and continue listening to News Nation.
been this big standoff over the last several weeks between the committee and the Clintons, Hillary Clinton and former President Bill Clinton. Like I said, you had the House Oversight Committee voting to recommend contempt of Congress charges against them for refusing to be interviewed. But fast forward to this week, on Monday, both the former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton agreed to testify at the end of February. And now this morning, you have them coming out saying that they.
So, do you believe that this testimony will bring to light, bring to the forefront anything else, anything new, anything damning against President Donald Trump or anyone else, Republican or Democrat? Your thoughts and opinions. Let me give you a couple of moments in the chat to decide what you think on this, and we'll continue. Okay, now I mentioned that I thought I saw a video and I found it. I always like to make sure that I have all of my ducks in a row, and you can find this on the Midas Touch, where it says that the Clintons have been blocked or allegedly blocked from public testimony. Again, this can be found on the Midas Touch, and we're going to listen to Ben Meiselas of the Midas Touch. Again, all of this is fair use.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are now officially blocking former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton from testifying publicly about Jeffrey Epstein, about the Epstein files, and answering any questions that the public may have for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Now, this follows Donald Trump and MAGA Republican Congressmember James Comer and all the other MAGA Republicans saying the Epstein files has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This is all about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. It's as though like we're all stupid, right? Like Donald Trump appears on the Epstein files over 38,000 times in 5,000 documents, and that's just in the partial release of Epstein files of 3 million documents.
Again, I'm going to say to be prudent and responsible on this channel. These are unconfirmed reports. I repeat, unconfirmed reports. But this 38,000 seems to be the magic number that I've heard on several different podcasts and content creators and influencer pages. Let's continue. Again, you can find us on the Midas Touch.
So there's at least 3 million other documents, which could be as many as 25 to 50 million pages that are missing. But look, the bottom line is that Bill Clinton says, want to ask me any questions about it? I'm happy to speak about it. Hillary Clinton says, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to know. You want to ask me questions about it? Let's do it. But let's do it in public, in front of the entire world. And let's do it. Let's do a hearing on Epstein. You want to do it? We're ready to go. So you now have James Comer saying, actually, we're going to maybe do it in secret. We're not going to do it in public. Why would we do a public hearing? They think they're special. They think they get, no, it's not a matter of thinking they're special. What's in those files, James Comer, is absolutely vile and disgusting. The allegations, especially against Donald Trump and the cabal that's in the White House right now that you're a sycophant of, is disgusting. And I think it's laudable. We should praise people who want to go and testify under oath in public. Well, Donald Trump wants.
And if there's nothing to hide, why not? I mean, let's be honest. A lot of what has been released, the redactions, weren't really there for some of the victims. Now, were they? Was that done intentional, or was that a gaffe or a faux pas by a staffer? It's time to stop the excuses and the hypocrisy. One way or another, a Democrat, a Republican, or just a regular Joe, what's done in the dark truly will come to light. Let's continue.
To avoid that. So here was James Comer last night going on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, saying, actually, we don't want to do Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton's deposition in public. We're going to do that in secret. And then maybe we'll release it when we say we want to release it. The hell is this? Watch MAGA Republicans just utterly terrified here. Let's play this clip.
All right. She wants to tell you how to do your job. You're saying no.
No, look, she has moved the goalposts millions of times throughout this entire process, then fires out an email attacking me today, accusing me of moving the goalpost, and she's the one who's tried to move the goalpost again. She agreed to a standard deposition. The deposition will be made public. So what she's asking for is already going to happen. The deposition will be video, you'll have the audio, and a transcript. Everyone in America will have access to it. Every deposition I've ever done in the 3 years I've been chairman of the House Oversight Committee, we have released the transcript and the video and the audio. So what she's asking for is already going to happen. But what she really wants, Sean, is a committee hearing. And everyone that's ever watched a committee hearing in Congress, including the one in the House this week with the Treasury Secretary, knows that committee hearings are more for entertainment than substance. The deposition is for substance. This is a serious investigation. The purpose of the investigation is to get justice for the victims.
And I agree, it should be public. So to me, you're just bumping your gums. Let's continue.
That actually breaks my heart, right? That's what Donald Trump said 2 days ago to NBC. And then yesterday, Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, parroted that. And then Trump had his other regime sycophants like Scott Jennings and other like praising Bill Clinton because they're terrified that he's going to testify like truthfully. And then Donald Trump said, people are saying, well, then Donald Trump's got to testify. Watch Donald Trump say, it bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. What do you mean somebody? You are. You're the person because you're trying to distract from the fact that you were Epstein's best friend. You flew on the plane over and over and over again, and that you're over these files 38,000 times. That's more references to Harry Potter than in the Harry Potter books. That's more references to Jesus in the Bible than you are in the Epstein files. Listen to what Donald Trump said when he's like, it bothers me that they want to go after.
If you bring President Bill Clinton and he has to testify, we're bringing President Trump. What do you say to that?
I think they might say that, but they've already brought me. See, I've been brought. They had me indicted many, many times. Many, many times.
And
somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton. I still like Bill Clinton.
What do you like about him?
I liked his behavior toward me. Run against Trump, and Hillary sort of laughed at him.
And then on CNN and the various shows.
So again, you can find the remainder of that conversation at the Midas Touch. Again, at the Midas Touch. So will this be public or will this testimony of the Clintons actually be a private deposition? Your thoughts and opinions as we pivot to our next topic. I'll give you a couple of moments to wade your thoughts in the chat, and we'll be right back. Next up, we have none other than DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem. This audio and some video can be found, and it's very short, on Forbes Breaking News. Forbes Breaking News, where members of Congress are speaking on the floor. And this was dated February the 4th, 2026. And again, there are many people calling for Kristi Noem to either step down or get impeached. Let's listen.
Now yield 2 minutes. The gentleman from California, Raul Ruiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a member of Congress and a physician, I am outraged and sad about the killings of U.S. citizen and mother Renee Nicole Good, who was shot and killed by an ICE agent, and U.S. citizen and VA ICU nurse Alex Peretti, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent during the same enforcement surge in Minneapolis, sparking widespread protests and intensifying scrutiny of federal.
Now, behind you, there is a graphic entitled "Passed Away at the Hands of Kristi Noem's DHS." And these are the names and the dates. And the first date was January 23rd, 2025. And they did respectfully add Keith Porter Jr., that's the black man who passed away from an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve in California. Again, Keith Porter, black male, by an off-duty ICE agent in California. He passed away on New Year's Eve.
Tactics. Last year was the deadliest year in over 20 years, with over 56 people dying under the ICE and CBP custody in detention centers. Detainees like Luis Beltran Yanes Cruz, who died in a hospital in my district after complaining of days of chest pain without receiving the appropriate urgent care, are concerning and smells of neglect. The violence and brutality against non-criminal immigrants and U.S. citizens is not public safety, it is cruelty. That's why Secretary Noem must be impeached and removed, and there must be transparency and accountability, and that is why I introduced the Humanitarian Standards for Individuals in ICE and CBP Custody Act to prevent death and protect human dignity.
Your thoughts and opinions on what you heard. Again, that can be found on Forbes Breaking News. Again, Forbes Breaking News. And this is another video courtesy of Forbes Breaking News.
And if you want to know how things are going on in America, I mean, just look at my colleagues. I mean, they want to talk about Europe because things are going so well here. You know, Mr. Chairman, Secretary Noem is scheduled to appear here in a month, and I'm going to say something that might surprise you. I don't think she should come. You know why I don't think she should come? Because I think she should be fired before that. She shouldn't be here. So if you want to invite her as a private citizen, no problem. You know, Leader Thune was asked, does he have confidence in her? He said that's up to the president. Josh Hawley was asked, would he vote for her again? He says, thank God he doesn't have to. That's a real vote of confidence there. Senator Kennedy wants Tom Homan to run the show. By the way, he now is. Senator Tillis wants her fired.
Tom Homan actually was sent to Minnesota, and little Greg Bovino went back to California, for those of you that may have forgotten. So there has been a little paradigm shift, not much, but we shall see what happens in the future. Again, it's courtesy of Forbes Breaking News. And this is at the House Judiciary Committee.
Senator Murkowski wants her fired. Congresswoman Malliotakis says all options should be on the table with who should run the agency. Not a single Republican House member or senator is running to the television to defend Noam. And by the way, President Trump, wasn't lost on me, skipped her in his cabinet meeting just a couple days ago. She was the only secretary he didn't allow to talk.
Wow.
I know what I need to do. I need to remind the president who he used to be. I want to take you down memory lane. You know what we need? We need Apprentice Trump. Where is that guy? Look, let me remind him who he used to be real quick.
You're fired. 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 You're fired.
Where is that guy? What happened to him? I mean, Mr. President, you had one of the most popular TV shows, right? People would tune in weekly. You would fire the weakest link of your team. People loved it when you fired people, Mr. President. Sitting in the boardroom, Eric on one side, Junior on the left. It was much watched TV. You made millions of dollars firing people for a living. But now someone convinced you firing people is weakness. That's why ratings are down, Mr. President. It would be much watched TV. Think about it, Mr. President. Tens of millions of people will tune in. You bring Kristi Noem into your little conference room. You have a cabinet meeting, right? And you fire her right there on TV. Oh, the ratings would be through the roof. Think about the hat she would wear. I mean, it'll be majestic. Okay, let me show you, Mr. President, what that might look like.
I put you over here to help this team, and you didn't help the team.
Well, I try the best I can.
I know you did, but you didn't help the team.
I can't be completely responsible for
I put you over here to help the team. You know that, right?
Yes,
Ms. Christie, you're fired. Wow.
That was actually funny. So, for those of you interested, you can watch that in its entirety at Forbes Breaking News. Again, you can find that at Forbes Breaking News. Your thoughts and opinions if Kristi is still going to hold on to her job, or if she's going to get a reprieve. Your thoughts and opinions, and we'll continue. This is the weekend show. I am your hostess, Lise. Please make sure, for those of you just joining, if you'd be so kind to please double tap your screens, or depending upon the device you're listening to, give this a thumbs up. Again, greetings to the members, to the subscribers, and if you are new, welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here. We'll be back. Okay, now we're going to listen to a little bit of the Young Turks, and right now you're going to hear the voice of James Comer, and then you're going to hear the firecracker, Jasmine Crockett. Let's continue. And again, welcome everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy weekend.
This should not be a partisan issue, but they clearly do not take this issue seriously. Either they don't take fraud seriously or they just don't care. It's one or the other. Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognize Ms. Jasmine Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and for every witness that is here, thank you so much for your time and your attention. I just have one quick question. I have not been here the entire hearing, but I don't think this question has been posed for each of you, and we can start at the far end. Do you believe that all Somalis are engaged in fraud?
I do not, and I'd like
Okay, just yes or no. Next.
Of course not.
Absolutely not. We have good Somali people in our state.
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to make sure I level set because it seems like we want to continue to, especially as we just heard those particular articles entered into the record, we want to continue to just make it seem as if you are Somali, then somehow you are a fraudster. And this administration has decided that it wants a target on their backs. And so when my colleague, Ms. Randall, decided that she wanted to talk about the threats that are being made towards various Somali people, the reason she brought it up is because this particular side of the aisle has a tendency of, if one person does something bad, especially if they are an immigrant, then we are going to cast aside that entire community. So I wanted to level set, and I appreciate your honesty because that's something that we very rarely get from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. In fact, if we want to talk about fraud, I got a lot of fraud that we're going to talk about because we're going to get in.
Oh, and as I said, I have some fraud cases that I want to talk about, and there is going to be a doozy. I might get in trouble for it, but I've been in trouble before for discussing certain things. But if people really want to go around targeting certain communities about fraud, well, I have a community that I want specific people to look into, but I guarantee you that they won't, because again, it steps away from the White House. And I'm not talking about the hood either. Let me be clear on that. So let's continue.
To this, but I am very curious to hear. Let me ask you, Mr. Baloo, are you aware of allegations that $50,000 in taxpayer dollars have been given to someone that is currently sitting in this administration by the name of Tom Homan? Are you aware? Okay, that's a yes.
I am.
Okay, and last I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong if you have different information, but he was given that $50,000 in exchange for being able to provide contracts and kickbacks to people as soon.
Again, for purposes of this channel, these are unconfirmed reports, and what is our Tom Homan has denied and also went on record saying that he wasn't going to discuss that anymore. He's already basically given his answer. I don't believe him, but again, that's just my opinion. Let's continue.
As Trump was going to get into office, the DOJ was actually investigating this, but as soon as Trump got into office, last I checked, he actually said, go ahead and throw away that case.
So it was a Department of Justice investigation, and he accepted the money from an undercover FBI agent in cash.
Are you aware as to whether or not we ever got that $50,000 back?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Are you aware as to whether or not this committee has decided to investigate that?
I'm not.
Are you aware as to whether or not any committee in Congress has decided to investigate the fact that we know that he took $50,000 from an undercover officer, and yet we still don't have that money, nor does he have any charges?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get into it.
Now, let me stop that right there. Hold on, Jasmine. Hold on, Madam Jasmine. That there is an individual who is set to go on trial in March. His name is Trayon White. He is the council member of Ward 8 who was expelled last year during an undercover alleged bribery scheme. Yes, the same scenario. Bribes, meetings that were taped. It's all over the internet. From undercover agents, he was arrested, and his trial is set for March. He was reelected. He was reelected to his seat. Council member Trayon White, Washington, D.C., Ward 8, for alleged bribery. Does this seem eerily similar? And the premise behind that was almost identical. Promises of contracts for programs such as violence interrupters in one of the most impoverished areas of Washington, D.C., which happens to be Ward 8. Yeah. That didn't go away, though. No. Trayon White. Trayon White was black and young. Caught on tape. Allegedly. It could have been doctored, altered. I personally don't believe that it was, but Trayon White has to face trial. His didn't go away. Let's continue.
Presidential administration in American history, a $300 million ballroom, a $230 million payout from the Department of Justice because the president got his feelings hurt because he has to be investigated for being a criminal. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent at Trump-owned properties around the country, Trump-branded wine being sold at the Coast Guard exchanges, American taxpayer dollars being spent on DHS propaganda ads on Truth Social, awarding federal contracts to corporations in exchange for campaign contributions. Kash Patel flew his girlfriend around the country on a multi-million-dollar jet that taxpayers paid for. Kristi Noem gave companies she's affiliated with hundreds of millions of tax dollars, then went out and spent another $200 million on 2 private jets for her travel. For 12 months, this administration has been taking billions of taxpayer dollars from American people and have been giving it away to their own companies in the form of tax cuts, government contracts, or other government-funded subsidies. So Congress has a role in getting rid of fraud, I will admit that, in any federally funded government program. However, I think the fraud that the American people are concerned about is that the Republicans are taking away Americans' health care so that ultra billionaires can get more tax cuts. The real fraud is the dehumanization and demonization of the working class Americans and immigrants to distract folks away from corporate socialism that's happening because of the Republicans. So this is truly the definition of throwing away the baby with the bathwater. The Republican philosophy is that if the cost of living for the average American increases, they're on their own. But if the cost of doing business increases for the wealthiest people on earth, well, then it's the government job to bail them out.
So, for those of you that are interested in listening to that in its entirety, you can find that on the Young Turks. Again, the Young Turks, that was Madam Representative from Texas, Jasmine Crockett. Your thoughts and opinions. I'll give you a couple of moments for those of you who would like to publicly state how you feel about what you just heard, and we will return momentarily. Okay, our next big story. This is a sad story, and one for those who are law and crime enthusiasts. And it is the case of the abduction story of Savannah Guthrie's mother. Now, many of you have heard about this story, and this is the latest. Apparently, her mom, 84 years old, was abducted from her home, a huge home that, from my understanding, and there's so many moving parts to this, even I can't wrap my head around it. And this is something I actually do, not to this degree for a living, but it's so much. But apparently she was, from my understanding, abducted from their home. There has been talks about ransom notes, and the latest, and again, these are unconfirmed reports, that she may be still here with us and she's safe, but afraid. Again, to be prudent and responsible on this channel, I must say unconfirmed reports, because as we know, people make mistakes. That is why we have erasers, the delete key, whiteout. I think whiteout is still available in some places, but I just want to make sure that people know that people make mistakes. Sometimes people jump the gun, and some things we may hear are not quite accurate. So this is courtesy of Law and Crime, and the case of missing mom of Savannah Guthrie.
We haven't heard anything directly.
Nancy Guthrie's son is trying to speak directly to his mom's kidnapper in a video that...
So I'm going to show his face. There we go.
...was posted to Instagram overnight, where the search for Nancy seems to be centered, as the FBI is offering thousands of dollars now as a reward. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Well, it is now day 6 in the search for Nancy Guthrie, and one of the 2 deadlines listed in an alleged ransom note is passed.
Okay, so they mentioned alleged ransom note, and a lot of people have been talking about this, so let's hear the latest.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
That's the video posted right around the time that the FBI says a deadline was listed in the alleged ransom note that authorities in the Guthrie family seem to be taking very seriously. Now, that deadline was 5 p.m. Mountain Time on Thursday. The FBI also said that there is a second deadline listed in the note, claiming it was around sometime this upcoming Monday, but they didn't go into further details on that during a news conference Thursday at the Pima County Sheriff's Department. They did, though, unveil some key information that was included in the alleged note.
Next, regarding the ransom letter. We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously. We are in communication with the family, and while we advise and recommend from a law enforcement perspective, any action taken on any ransom is ultimately decided by the family. Thank you to those in the community that have called in tips. For anyone out there that may have information, no matter how small you think it may be, please report it. You can do so by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov.
Now, the alleged ransom note that has been talked about was received by TMZ, as well as at least 2 local TV stations in Tucson. TMZ said the FBI asked them to withhold sharing certain pieces of information in the note, but they did unveil some new details overnight that we'll talk about here in just a moment.
So I'm going to advance this a little bit. Here we go.
Sheriff, that Nancy took an Uber to Annie's home around 5:30 Saturday night. She has dinner there with her family. She has games. It's a very typical evening. And then she is driven by family, according to the sheriff, back to her house where she lives alone, and she arrives home around 9:45 in the evening. Now, the sheriff was asked who was the person or people, the members of her family, who drove her back to her house. But the sheriff said he's just going to keep his answer at family at this point, not specifically saying who the person was who drove Nancy home. It's
Do you all find that to be odd? Or do you think that's normal protocol? Just keep it at family, not singling one individual out. Your thoughts and opinions. Let's continue.
really interesting, but it also may be the sheriff just trying to protect the names of people, as he reiterated yesterday that they do not have a suspect or person of interest in this case.
Or her son-in-law also. I think the timeline that the sheriff provided was a family member, but just family. We're going to go with that.
Now, before I get back to more of what was reportedly in these alleged ransom notes, I want to go through the new timeline that we have. What law?
Okay, so I'm going to let him go ahead and discuss the timeline without interrupting and then get back with my commentary. Again, this is the case of Savannah Guthrie's missing mom, Miss Nancy. Let's continue. And for those of you that are just joining, welcome. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to one and to all. Please make sure that you, if you would be so kind, double tap your screens, or depending upon the device you're listening to, give this a thumbs up. All comments are welcome. Just please be respectful. And thank you.
Enforcement said for the first time, laying out what they found in this investigation, but it's also important to talk about what law enforcement won't say, which could be key in piecing together where they are at this point. Now, deputies say when Nancy gets home, her garage door opens at 9:48 in the evening, and then it closes 2 minutes later. So that is believed to be when Nancy gets home, she goes to bed. Things get very concerning a couple of hours later at 1:47 in the morning. That is when Nancy's doorbell camera disconnects. Now, you might remember this video from earlier in the week from News Nation showing the doorbell camera missing from its mount on Nancy's front door. New information we have on that is the sheriff said that law enforcement does not have that device, that camera, in their possession. The sheriff also said the blood that was found on the front steps of the house was sent in for DNA, and it came back as Nancy's blood. They also say at this point they do not have evidence that is tested positive for someone else's DNA. They did say they're waiting for some results to come back. The doorbell camera is gone, but there is some kind of software in the home that picked up motion outside the house at 2:12 in the morning. The sheriff says that they were not able to get video of whatever that was outside the house. He admits it could be an animal, but it also could be very critical to this investigation. It could be the suspect who allegedly took Nancy Guthrie. You have 2:28. This is very key. Nancy's pacemaker disconnects from her iPhone. Now, law enforcement say they have Nancy's phone. And just from our research, it appears that a lot of pacemaker apps can disconnect when they're separated from the phone. It may not be a situation where someone goes into a phone and then physically turns off the app or something like that. Now, Nancy then does not show up for church the next day on Sunday, and that's where family gets concerned. They go to check on her just before noon. Then at 12:03, 911 is called.
Nancy, a white female, 84 years, Bethany Beach, 5 medium build, Pineapple Blue.
Okay, so that right there is the timeline. And I'm going to go through some comments. That's something that I normally do. At for those of you who want to listen to the entire
A new report claims the
of
alleged ransom
the entire broadcast, you can go to Law and Crime. But I want to go through the comments. Okay. Ellen says, why do some 911 operators sound like they can't really be bothered? Unfortunately, I've had that experience as well. I understand that can be a very stressful job, but I'm sure, well, I would believe that they would know this. 911 is known for an emergency. That people are distressed, frightened, under duress, perhaps. So you should know before you apply for any job to read thoroughly what your duties entail. And if you cannot meet those qualifications, or if you know in your heart of hearts that you really can't endure stressful situations, you may want to pass and go to a job that you can truly fit each and every requirement and be able to perform under exorbitant amounts of stress. Christine says, I don't want to think that it is a family member. However, people close to you can betray you due to their greed. I'm going to do a hard stop right there and say amen to whomever that is. How many people, and you do not, I would encourage you not to, just because people will scrutinize for the smallest things, but how many of you have experienced a loss of a family member, and before the body even gets cold, there are huge fights over money, over property, over inheritance, over trusts? You would be surprised that there is so much truth in that statement. And I'm going to read it again. I don't want to think that as a family member. However, people close to you can betray you due to their greed. I also want to say, and I'm going to pivot just a little bit, to the entertainment industry, where a lot of people speak about sacrifices and how if someone close to them loses their life under, I'll just say, bizarre or strange circumstances, and that individual who has lost that person suddenly seems to gain wealth. A lot of people put the label of sacrifice on there. There could be insurance policies, selling your soul, if you will. We've heard that all for fame, for riches. At the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion, money, well, it can pay bills, pay for medications if you need them, help others for those who choose to help others, cannot buy you true happiness and peace. Sometimes that can be the gateway to a life of misery. It's my opinion. Kimberly says, drive her Apple Watch around town and see if it connects. Christina says, why on earth can someone very fragile, vulnerable, and you want to hurt her? This case makes me cry. Christine, there are evil people who don't care about hurting children much more than the elderly. We see that with the Epstein files. So respectfully, it doesn't matter the age. People, humans with evil, cruel intentions, they're devoid of reality, of ages, whether, again, child, infant, elderly. Steve says, at this point, I would be surprised if she was still alive. It's a sad state of affairs. East Side Writer says, I'm in my 70s with a pacemaker. Blood thinners can lead to nosebleeds. She likely takes beta blockers and blood pressure meds, too. Both are important. Absolutely. Let's grab a couple of more. And It's Me says, does anyone else think it's weird that the kidnappers take weekends off? Vishnu, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, if the son-in-law is involved, then it would make sense that all communication between the family and kidnappers has stopped because he is closely watched. And I'm going to end the comments with Steve, who says, this world is absolutely disgusting. I pray for a safe return and for whoever did this gets thrown under the jail and forgotten. We are coming up on the 2nd hour mark. We're going to take another quick break. I'm going to warm up some ginger tea with a little bit of cayenne pepper, black pepper, and a pinch of turmeric. That is perfect for a cold season and for those of you that may have respiratory issues or those who just enjoy something herbal and natural. Now, before any of you try natural teas or anything, I would strongly encourage you to always consult with your physician first. So again, we're going to go on a quick break to get a couple of snacks. Maybe, again, your favorite beverage. And we'll return for the next half of the weekend review. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome. Again, thank you. Big mega love. Shout out to the members, subscribers, and to those who come around time to time. I appreciate you. And I want to put this up really quickly. For those of you that enjoy certain crime shows and talks about cases this is coming soon. It's a pleasure and honor to have him back. We used to have regular shows or conversations. We haven't stopped our conversations, but as far as virtual online It's been a while, but I'm pleased that coming soon we will begin again. And again, I'm excited about this. For those of you who enjoy high profile cases and reactions to some verdicts or what you think may be the verdict, this is special. And again, I'm excited. I'm excited about everyone that I have on my broadcast, everyone that I have interviewed, everyone that has been a part of this journey. So while we get ready to break, everyone, make sure, if you're interested, to keep your notification bells on for this next show. And we are back. We are back. Thank you so much for those that have chosen to stick around or those who may be returning. We're going to continue to speak about the new details in the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, this is courtesy of Fox News. Again, courtesy of Fox News, where they speak about a vehicle being towed from the property of Nancy Guthrie. Again, this is courtesy of Fox News.
Continue to cover this story. Fox News shared this just last night, saying investigators towed a vehicle from Nancy Guthrie's property just last night. Earlier, FBI agents were seen inside the home's garage where a blue SUV was parked. And we also heard from President Trump as he spoke aboard Air Force One just yesterday. And here's a quote from Trump saying, we have some clues, I think, that are very strong. And I think we could have some answers coming up fairly soon. I'm not talking about a search. I'm talking about a solution. A lot has taken place in the last couple of hours. A few more social media posts wanted to share with you here. And these are the latest posts from the Pima County Sheriff's Office last night, showing they're investigating that new message regarding Guthrie. And they also shared this map that we're putting up on your screen saying investigators are conducting follow-up at the Guthrie home and in surrounding areas. The roadway in front of that home currently restricted to provide investigator space. A lot to discuss here, so we want to bring in Dante Mills. He is a federal defense attorney at Mills Legal, LLC. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. We do appreciate it.
Percy, thank you for having me.
So there's a lot of questions here, as we continue to watch all of this unfold. From a legal standpoint, what questions do you still have at this moment that you want answered?
What an interesting case. There are a lot of questions. So what we really have to focus on is the person communicating through these letters that they're sending to media outlets, are they really the person who did the kidnapping? That's the most important question you want to try to verify. It's interesting because the family is using the media also to communicate with them because there is no direct line of communication. So you see them putting out statements, putting out videos and reading statements so they can communicate with the capture and let them know they're willing to engage in conversation. They just need to make sure that their mother is still alive. And that they're obviously willing then to meet the demands of these captures. It should be noted, though, that this is a very serious criminal offense. Obviously, when you talk about kidnapping, but it's even more serious if you talk about murder. So I think that the kidnappers hopefully understand that it's better for them to release Miss Guthrie alive so that even if they're caught, there's a possibility that they won't face murder charges, just kidnapping charges, which will be less. And also, lastly, for anyone that's sending out notes or ransom notes who are just trying to capitalize on this tragic event and they don't, in fact, have Miss Guthrie, they should be aware that there's criminal charges associated with that as well. Even if they didn't do the kidnapping, it's extortion to put out a letter making a demand for something, even if you don't have what you're saying you have in return.
Right, and federal prosecutors did charge a California man with sending a fake ransom note in an effort to extort Savannah Guthrie and her siblings. So we do know.
Now that's absolutely sick and diabolical. And that's something that people need to understand, where someone asked the question, what type of world we live in, where something like this could happen. This is a world where we have copycats who will do things to monetize off of other people's grief. That's the type of world, unfortunately. And this is an example.
And he's accused of demanding a ransom across state lines and using anonymous telecommunications to abuse, threaten, or harass the Guthrie family. But my question for you, how do ransom notes sent to media outlets factor into a potential criminal case compared to notes that are sent privately to a family? What's the distinction there?
Yeah, so the slight distinction could be that it could make it a federal crime when you talk about sending something across state lines, when you put it out into the public. If it's something that occurs within one state, generally it would be a state crime, and the state would have the authority and the ability to investigate that and charge. When you make it a federal crime, it does open up more resources because the federal government is going to have more resources in the state. So when you communicate across state lines or send those letters across state lines, we just talked about the charge that they put on the one person that they knew the letter was fake. You all
So that's a picture
increasing the chances, in fact,
of the person who did the fake ransom note. Allegedly, his name is Derek Colella, and he was asking for Bitcoin. I don't know if you all know or not, but Bitcoin actually is plummeting, or it was, but let's continue.
that you're going to get caught because now there's more resources to put to this investigation. The charges are not more severe because there's severe charges in state court, but in federal court, you're just talking about the mass unit of the federal government behind this investigation.
Now, Dante, I did want to switch the post here that is on the screen back to this statement from President Trump, because he's saying we have some clues. that he thinks are very strong. Could have some answers there soon. Now, we also did see earlier that President Trump offered.
So for those of you who are interested, you can listen to that in its entirety on Fox News Live now. And that's the horrible case of Nancy Guthrie. Your thoughts and opinions on if you believe that there is definitely foul play. Do you believe that there are family members involved, or do you believe that this is just a total unhinged person out for greed? Your thoughts and opinions. Now, the last video on this particular case we're going to listen to is courtesy of Michael Schmerkonish. And we're going to listen to a little bit of this. And it's entitled Harvey Levin on Why Nancy Guthrie May Have Been Targeted. And that's a very, very good question. Let's continue. Thank you, and welcome to those that are just tuned in.
Harvey Levin have been reporting the story closely, regularly breaking news on the kidnapping. I just spoke to the man himself, executive producer of TMZ, Harvey Levin. Harvey, thank you so much for being here. Tell me the very latest.
Well, there is a second note that was sent, and the way it's being reported, it has many of the markings of the first note. The first note we received as well, and it's the same note that the local station got. So the second note does not include any kind of ransom demand, according to KOLD, the station that got it. It has sensitive information in there. So, Michael, look, I'm going to speculate at this point, but you know, the note we got said, we're not getting in touch with anybody anymore. Here's the demand. That's it. But the family came out and said, we need proof of life. So I would think that in this letter, maybe it includes something that tells the family that this person who wrote the letter has Nancy Guthrie. That could be something that no one would know except the family. You know, it could be something as simple as, you know, what's the last birthday present Nancy gave Savannah? It could be something involving her medical condition, because that seems highly relevant right now, you know, given the fact that she had high blood pressure, she has a pacemaker, and that she needs her medication. So it could be something like this. The reporter from KLD suggested there's something in there that was somewhat alarming, and it could have to do with her medical condition. I don't know.
And a lot of people actually have spoken about her medical condition, which to me is key. Her family definitely would know about it, but who else may have known about her medical condition? Your thoughts and opinions on that as we continue to listen to Harvey Levin, executive producer of TMZ.
But they are clearly trying to show, yeah, we are the people who have it. We are the real deal. And I don't think it's much of a coincidence that they rushed out to the house and did a search shortly after receiving that second letter.
Harvey, I've been watching you all week, and I think you're doing a hell of a job covering this, but there's so much that doesn't make sense to me.
There's a lot that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. So this is the show host right here, Schmerkonish. Again, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but I'll make sure that I have it in the description.
The least of which is, and maybe I watch too much television or have seen too many movies,
why go through media outlets? Why go through TMZ? Why not go directly to the family? Surely you've thought about that.
I have. And, sometimes you go to the family and it says, the police aren't going to be able to help you. This person wanted this information. They knew we would transmit this to the police, and they knew KOLD would do the same thing. So, sometimes it's almost like a cat and mouse game. But Michael, whoever did this is really sophisticated. It is almost impossible to trace, where it came from. The Bitcoin address is real. This is a sophisticated person.
I find that interesting that RB11 says that this is a sophisticated person. There's always, my mom always used to say, there's always someone better. And I'm not discrediting that. However, there's, again, like I said, always someone better. Again, this is courtesy of Michael Smirkanish. I'll just say Michael S. I'll have it in the description, and I'm going to capture some comments, and we'll get to our next story. I thank everyone who has hung in here this long. I appreciate each and every one of you. And here are some comments. Praying for Nancy Guthrie's safe return and for her family. KK38, that was a little bit, in my opinion, insensitive, but unfortunately, all of the comments are not going to be rosy. Says, wake me up when they arrest someone. Verena says, I think ransom letters are to throw them off. Makes 0 sense. Your thoughts and opinions on that? I'll give you a couple of moments. I'll repeat that one. I think ransom letters, and this is according to Verena in the comment section, are to throw them off. Makes 0 sense. And then Deja New says, update, no update. Odo says, the perpetrators are probably just so tickled by all of Harvey's compliments. Harvey is just loving all of this notoriety too. Wow. And HDW says, this just proves that the crypto scam should be shut down in its entirety. Thieves and criminals cannot be allowed to operate with a fake currency. I wonder how many people promote cryptocurrency. I wonder if they've checked checked how it's been doing lately. Your thoughts and opinions on that. What is the probability that Miss Nancy is still here? What is the probability that it is or was at the hands of somebody close to her? Or is this just a random abduction? Your thoughts and opinions. I'll give you a couple of moments to think on that, and we'll be back. Okay, the next voice you will be listening to is courtesy of Reuters, and it's our President of the United States, Donald Trump. And this was as of January 31st, 2026. Keep in mind of the date, January 31st, 2026. Listen closely to what he says.
Was a writer was conspiring with Epstein to do harm to me. And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, the radical left. That Wolf, who's a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt me, politically or otherwise. And that came through loud and clear. So we'll probably sue Wolf on that.
So Donald Trump, keep in mind that this was the end of January, said that they would probably sue Wolf as it relates to the Epstein files. But there was a very important interview that came out that I want to share with you. Be a moment to cue that up. And thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying your Saturday, perhaps Sunday, depending upon where you are on the globe. Now, there's been a couple of them, and I actually went downtown a few months ago, and I was able to see Gloria Allred and hear some of the victims speak on Capitol Hill. Okay, this is courtesy of Good Morning.
Was a young student when she was introduced.
This is courtesy of Good Morning Britain. Good Morning Britain. And this is, I'm going to say, to be responsible and prudent on this channel. The story of Rena O.
Back in 2000. She was an aspiring young artist, and she was actually hoping that he might be able to open some professional doors for her in the art world.
He paid her university tuition fees and provided her with an apartment in New York, but Rena soon discovered nothing with Epstein comes for free.
She joins us now to tell us her story. Irina, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. As with all of the horrible stories of these women, girls, teenagers, children, it all starts off relatively innocently in the mind of the victim, who thinks, here's a benefactor, somebody, or Ghislaine, somebody's going to do something for me out of the goodness of their heart because they see that I have talent. And that is literally how you got hooked in, wasn't it?
That's exactly how he coerced me. He told me right away that he thought I had amazing talent and that he was.
Okay, this is alleged victim, Rena O. from New Jersey.
A philanthropist, and he wanted to help me. And he told me he wasn't expecting anything from me at all, which didn't turn out to be the case, unfortunately.
And how soon was it after you met him that you realized that this was something much darker and much more complex?
It escalated from the first day. It took me a very long time to understand what was happening to me was wrong. And for me to put it in a timeline, I can't really give you an exact time, but by the time I went with him to Palm Beach, Florida, I saw the inner workings of what really went on in his home life, because I was staying with him for a week. And that's when I realized how dark it could be, except that a lot of these things that he told me about, he did this outside of the United States. So I actually didn't witness it, but Jeffrey Epstein told me what he was into, and it's beyond what I've seen or heard from other victims and interviews. These are unnamed girls that are foreign. They're in foreign countries. He disclosed that he traveled to foreign countries to commit illicit acts with children.
So for those of you who want to listen to that interview in its entirety, I would strongly encourage you to go to Good Morning Britain. Again, Good Morning Britain. Really, really sad. There was another one that I really wanted to share. If I can find it.
Haley, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Okay, this is another alleged Epstein survivor, and you can find this on Channel 4 News. Again, Channel 4 News.
I'm slightly wary of probing too much about your own experience. For obvious reasons. So can you tell me why have you decided to speak out and speak to the media?
Well, I've been speaking out about Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes for...
And this is a voice and image of Haley Robson. Haley Robson.
A bit of time. And it's important that we keep having these conversations and speaking out and speaking on this matter, because this is not a matter or an issue that only directly affects one country. This is a global pandemic that we're dealing with when it comes to abuse and sex trafficking. And we need all ears on deck, and everybody should be paying attention.
And you feel let down?
I feel incredibly let down and disappointed.
I mean, who do you feel most let down by?
The adults, the government, the DOJ, this administration.
Because you voted for Trump, didn't you, with hopes? What did you hope would happen?
Well, it's kind of a bit of a tough predicament, I suppose. A few of us voted for this administration in the hopes that Trump would fulfill his promise to not just the survivors, but to America, that he was going to be the transparent administration and he was going to release all of the documents. I mean, that's what he campaigned on. And when you've been in this for so long and you've seen administration after administration.
I'm going to do a hard stop right there and remind everyone that Pam Bondi, AG Pam Bondi, sent a letter to Kash Patel almost a month ago, almost a year ago, for the release of all of the documentation, and they have still not completed it as of yet. Let's continue.
Come in, and not one administration is speaking on it, not one administration is acknowledging us. And then you have a president that comes in and says, well, we're going to be transparent, we're going to lay down the law, and we're going to release the documents. It sparks a bit of hope in you, and that light becomes reignited. And so I think I was just hoping that he was going to stick to his promises and he was going to release the file.
And do you feel this is a cover-up still?
1000% it's a cover-up.
And what makes...
And there are many people that feel that way. Your thoughts and opinions. So I'll give you a couple of moments to put your thoughts and your feelings on that. Do you feel as though this is a cover-up? Is this bigger than what we see on the surface? Could what's truly in these documents hurt many people, some we might admire? That's why we must be careful with whom we idolize. We should not be idolizing anybody. For those of you that believe in the good book, we have to be careful with whom we admire and place on pedestals. Continue.
She say that.
Well, it's kind of the back and forth and the contradiction of in 2024, we're going to release the files. And then his entire administration, the DOJ, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, I mean, they've all been very supportive of being transparent and going to the lengths of saying, hey, I'm Pam Bondi, I've got Epstein files and the client list on my desk. And then all of a sudden that didn't happen. So obviously to the naked eye, it looks like there's a cover up, that you guys are hiding information from the public.
Yeah. What are you comfortable telling people about what happened to you, how you met Epstein, and how you were part of this network of abuse, this grooming gang?
Okay, so that is again courtesy of Channel 4 News. Channel 4 News, if you'd like to go and listen to that in its entirety. But this obviously is going to be going on until everything is released and everything is absolutely transparent. And I don't know if that's ever going to be the case. We shall see. We can hope. But again, we don't know. So we're going to go and pivot to another topic of discussion.
Whether it's the bruise on his hand or swollen.
And I talked about this during our last live. This is courtesy of Takeout. And they're talking about President Trump and his health. Now, keep in mind, he is up in age, and there are younger people with health issues. But let's go on to listen to Takeout with host Major Garrett.
Angles, President Trump's health has come under quite a bit of scrutiny during his second term. But as Ben Terrace writes for New York Magazine, those close to Trump are quite simply amazed by his energy, which they describe at times as nearly superhuman.
And I have to say that sometimes the photos and the videos we get to see of him, not the ones nodding, of course, but when he is up and out and about, he does seem to be full of energy. So let's listen to this.
In fact, the article has a title, Superhuman. Here's my conversation with Ben. Ben, great to see you. You sought to ascertain the truth about President Trump's health. That's not really easy to do.
No, it's very difficult to ascertain the truth about President Trump at all. But I think in reporting about his health, I was able to ascertain some truth about the way that he does his job, the way that he runs this country, the way that the government is run.
You thought you would be blocked or at least get some pushback. They brought you right in.
Yeah, it was surprising to me how much access I got. I got to go to the Oval Office and talk to the president and his team of doctors. I talked to a lot of his inner circle, his top staff, a cabinet secretary. I was surprised, but ultimately, President Trump wants to talk about this issue. He wants people to think that he's the healthiest president in the world, and it feels like he might be his best advocate for that. He also knows that his staff and his inner circle are going to talk very highly about him. He almost, I feel like, likes to have people go out and just praise him to the press, and so I got to benefit from that.
And when you went into the Oval and the doctors were there, you saw something on the paperwork in front of them. What did you see?
Yeah. First of all, I was surprised they were there at all. I did not expect the doctors to be there. They were standing next to a Christmas tree. It was, late December. It was just two men. I didn't know who they were. And they were each holding a piece of paper that on the top of the paper said talking points. So they had things they wanted to get through.
Mm-hmm. Did they recite those talking points to you in any sort of formal way?
I mean, there were moments where they were looking at those pieces of paper. They were asked questions by me and also by Caroline Levitt, the press secretary who was there. And it felt like, I don't know, it was a little practiced.
A little choreographed, a little rehearsed.
Yeah,
that's...
So, your thoughts and opinions. Is there something that we need to be concerned about? Again, this is a centerpiece of conversation of many people. Again, you can find that total video and interview on Face the Nation, and Takeout with Major Garrett. And the reporter claims that it seems like the conversations with Trump's doctors felt a little practiced. And I'm going to read a few comments. And Sean says, these two are a comedy show. And Canadian Patriot says, liberals for Biden. Nothing to see here, folks. And Deborah says, the entire episode was practice. CT says, it's not superhuman. Two things he has done and has never smoked and never drank. He doesn't eat a lot of sugar. And Jen says, how this person was allowed to be close to our great president. And L Max says, idiots. And Need to Know says, were they really doctors or just actors? Now, this video that I'm getting ready to show you is something that I saw the other night, and I actually was in the chat, and that is the Boxing Scholar. The Boxing Scholar. I was actually doing a report, and I pulled over and I was listening to their live stream. I've seen him come in my chat a couple times, so I saw him live and I listened in, and that was a wonderful stream. And they actually they talked about this, and when they played the clip, I honestly thought that his panelist, and I forgot his name, my apologies, I forgot his name, but I thought it was a joke. But apparently there's another video out. Hold on. There is another video out, and this is another podcaster that I enjoy listening to, and you've heard me mention his name a couple of times, and his name is Dave Pakman, and the title of please forgive me, but it's his name is Dave Pakman, and the title is Press Rushed Out as Trump, I'm just going to say, soiled his pants, to be respectful. Again, this is unconfirmed, but I have to say this is the second time I've seen this, so let's listen to a little bit of the David Pakman show.
Of pooping his pants during a live event and having everybody rushed out of the room. Now, I want to be careful here. This is not really about bathroom humor. This is about decline, denial, and this kind of growing gap between the image that Trump is selling and what we are seeing in real time. Now, we're going to get to the bowel evacuation a little bit later. I want to start with a couple other moments from different Oval Office events and a new totally deranged idea from Donald Trump. Trump is asked about the Kennedy Center, which he tried to rename the Trump Kennedy Center. He was asked, do you plan on tearing it down? And what is this going to cost? And Trump says, we are going to be doing renovations. I'm not ripping it down. We're going to use the steel. We're going to use the structure. We're going to use the marble. Take a look at this.
Renovations, you announced you wanted to build a new and spectacular entertainment complex at the Kennedy Center.
Right.
Do you plan on tearing it down, and how much will all of the renovations cost?
Probably around $200 million. And, you know, it's funny, in real estate and building, I've done so much of it. I've done so well with it. You want to sit with something for a little while before you decide on what you want to do. And, you know, we sat with it. We ran it. It's in very bad shape. It's run down. It's dilapidated. It's sort of dangerous. Things fall out of ceilings. You've seen it. And we had some big events there. We had.
I don't believe there was anything wrong with the Kennedy Center. The same thing with Union Station, which, by the way, whatever happened to the renovations with Union Station? Muriel Bowser, you couldn't really do too much about that because while it's in Washington, D.C., you said out of your own mouth that that's under the control of Department of Transportation, which is federal. So I just wanted to bring that back to memory. So I'm going to advance this to get to this particular part right here. And when it comes to health now, as I've mentioned, I have health issues. And I'm sure when people get older, or if they have health issues, that certain things cannot be controlled. And I agree totally with David when he says that this isn't a joking matter, but it is about possible decline. But the reason why I am laughing is because people have said so many things about so many people, but they like to gloss over certain things. And you will see me laugh or hear me laugh and put up laughing emojis. And that's because of the hypocrisy and how things are coming full circle. Now, keep in mind, he has the resources and I'm sure is receiving the best care. So let's continue to listen to this.
Alluded that something could be coming.
Yeah, well, he said that I spent time on Jeffrey Epstein's island. I didn't. I mean, he's a lightweight. This guy is terrible. I think he's terrible. I thought he did a terrible job at the Grammys. I thought the whole Grammys was terrible. I watched part of it.
He's talking about, I think, Bad Bunny.
Not watchable.
So this might sound small. It's not small. People default to first names when there is a familiarity. It's instinctive. It slips out when you're not fully in control of what you're saying. And Donald Trump's instinct was indicative of familiarity and intimacy, instinctively, with Jeffrey Epstein. All right, different Oval Office event. Here's the bowels thing. Listen, I'm going to play a clip here from Decoding Fox News, who has...
Okay. Make sure. Credit is to Decoding Fox News. Again, Decoding Fox News.
Isolated the key moment. I don't know the truth of this. Okay, I don't.
Nor do I. That is why I'm saying these are unconfirmed reports and alleged to maintain the integrity of this broadcast and this channel, and to those that I highlight.
There is widespread speculation that Donald Trump, I don't know, soiled himself, lost.
And that's a perfect word, and I used that earlier. Great minds think alike, because I wasn't going to say the other one, even though that's what's in the title. But we don't know. And again, I'm sure there are many people that have, I'm going to say, have had accidents.
Control of his bowels. during a White House event. And I don't want to make this like a funny thing, you know. You are going to hear a noise.
Even though people thought that the images of former President Barack Obama and his wife being depicted as animals were funny. Just wanted to make sure people remember that as well.
I'm trying not to laugh. It's hard not to laugh. This is not funny. Incontinence isn't funny. It's not, but what is fun?
I agree with you. Incontinence absolutely is not funny.
Is the contrast between the Trump that Trump says he is and what we see. There's a woman in green behind Trump, I'm sorry, who appears to sort of cover her nose right after it happens, as if something went really wrong. And RFK Jr. also has what I would call a strained look on his face. Here's the video. We'll evaluate.
In a recent Oval Office press conference, people have speculated if President Trump lost control of his bowels. I'm not sure. I don't know. I will just offer this video for anyone who wants to check it out. I've isolated sections that sound suspicious and cranked up the volume, and I've done nothing else besides that.
So you can hear that she's saying that she's cranked up the video. So this totally could be altered. So you all can view and listen for yourselves and make your own opinions if you decide you would like to do so.
I can say that I am extremely late, but that's okay. Don't worry about me. Okay? Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. But anyone else have anything to say?
I'm addressing that because chemists are coming up with new opioids faster than the we're going proactive on these new chemicals.
That's great. Now I hear fantastic things. Thank you all very much. We really appreciate it a lot. Thank you. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I got that video from the official White House YouTube account. I did absolutely nothing to the video except for isolate those sections and up the volume. Feel free to check yourself. You can listen at those moments and make up your own mind.
So listen, this is not supposed to be fun.
So you know I'm going right to the comment section. Again, you can go to David Pakman Show and listen to the entire video. And Bernard, Beware of the Kraut says, Germany had the brown shirts, America has the brown shorts. And Yap Dog says it's the Essing, and you can read that for yourself, President of the United States. Next we have, we as taxpayers do not want the government to spend $200 million to update the Kennedy Center. That's JB Beach. And Angie Ma says, we don't want marble armrests. We want health care. And Ojim says, when someone is full of it has to come out somehow. And user YV says, he's closing it because everyone is refusing to perform there. Your thoughts and opinions. On that little clip, and what's happening to the Kennedy Center. I used to love going to the Kennedy Center. I left theater, period. But your thoughts and opinions are coming up on the third hour. So we're going to take another break. Thank you all for tuning in. And again, welcome. Happy Saturday, happy weekend. Make sure you double tap your screens, or depending upon the device you're using, please consider hitting the like button. If you are enjoying the stream or any other videos you find in my video bucket, consider subscribing if you're new here. I'd love to see you back. We'll return shortly. Again, happy Saturday, happy weekend, happy pre-Super Bowl weekend. We'll be back. We are back. We are back, and we are going to close this out. A federal judge orders the Trump administration not to destroy evidence related to the demise of Alex Pretty. This is courtesy of CBS News. Again, CBS News.
On after a shooting or a situation like this?
Well, most importantly, you're trying to secure evidence. You're trying to do witness interviews. You're trying to look at a crime scene. You're trying to, if there's shell casings, if there's DNA evidence, if there's security, surveillance footage, things of that nature, the immediate aftermath of a crime is obviously an essential area for understanding what happened. I think another element of this is that because the federal government has been sort of saying that they are going to conduct their investigations and not include local law enforcement, it has created a real sense that state agencies are not going to have access to a criminal investigation involving a shooting and killing that happened on their streets. Yeah. And while the federal government might have jurisdiction, that does not preclude the state from conducting its own investigation. And again, this is why for decades, the working relationship between the state and federal law enforcement agencies has been one of cooperation and coordination.
And we know the shooting set off more anti-ICE protests as state and local officials and even businesses had hopes to de-escalate tensions out there. Are more protests planned for today?
The main thing that we're hearing about is more of peaceful demonstrations. There's been continued presence of people, protesters, citizens at the Whipple Federal Building, which is where ICE has been headquartered for the most part during this Operation Metro Surge.
So for those of you who want to listen to the remainder of that, you can find that on CBS News. Again, CBS News, and they're speaking about where the Alex Pretty investigation stands thus far. And we are going to close it out with those of you who are interested in the Super Bowl. Yes, we are at the Super Bowl again, 2026. Seahawks versus the Patriots. Now, I'm going for Seattle, of course, but your thoughts and opinions. And what for those of you interested, what do you look forward to? Are you looking forward to the halftime performance, or are you looking forward to the commercials, or are you just looking forward to the last game of the NFL? I'm going to end this with a little peek into last year's halftime show, courtesy of the NFL. Again, courtesy of the NFL. And again, your thoughts and opinions of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to win? Seattle? Do you think it's going to be the New England Patriots? And if so, what do you think the score is going to be? With all of the hoopla at the Grammys with Bad Bunny and his statements and how the crowd received them, how do you think that's going to be? Do you think this year's Super Bowl is going to have higher ratings than years of past? Do you think there are going to be any type of boycotts or political statements made. Again, your thoughts and opinions as we close out from last year's Super Bowl appearance by none other than Kendrick Lamar.
Everybody must be judged. But this time, God only favorite us. 20 years, he still got them team dedicated to bare hard truth. And he speak with a music tongue. Trying to get this time, I'm carrying heavier hearts right now. On the power of their foot, Olympians too. Carrying various darts right now. And deserve this art like tiramisu. We go body for body. I hit you a body. I'm probably a better for suits. Really don't bother nobody. What they really bother me if I got a 3 hours to do. When I get a picture, if I had to sit you for hours in front of the door. When I have a suit, even if I had told you the status of Johnny and Q. Johnny would done it for government cheese, but now it sees the government do. Remember the fools, them color was tan and brown, but now the under the blue. Remember I said I'm the greatest back when you debated the number 1 and number 2. Topic was always hilarious to me. You carried them to me, I brought out the fast. The revolution about to be televised. Pick the right time with the wrong guy. Reincarnated, I was stargating. Life goes on, honey, all my babies. Woke up looking for the hot beat, hot key. People horn on me that can buy me. Hot beat, ownership and blueprint is my beat. Mr. Get Off, I get off in my feet. Don't, baby, rockin' it. We a little cold, but you're home, cause I'm watching it. Brody's gonna blow, let me know what you jumping in. Brody won't go, but I know that he popping it. It was gonna keep his own sale till I shot his stick. Pipe down, young, he's an whole other politics.
Thank you all for tuning in to The Weekend in Review. I'm your host this week. Enjoy the remainder of your weekend. Until next time, everyone, please be safe, be well, and be happy. Bye.